There's usually two reasons why a studio needs to close. First one is the financial means. The second reason that companies go out of business and close their doors is EA. So, without further ado, let's go into the top 5 shut down game developers that we want to come back. Pandemic Studios. They made Star Wars Battlefront, Mercenaries. They also made Destroy All Humans. Now, in light of EA's decision to tamper with Battlefront to the degree that the words Battlefront 2 kind of cause you to wince in pain a little bit, this caused me to reflect on the original Battlefront 2 for the PlayStation 2, or at least like 10 years ago, right? It was a great game, critically acclaimed, and sold extremely well. But then something happened. Yeah, EA happened. It was EA, guys. EA happened. EA bought them in 2007. They had a few more releases, maybe another Mercenary game, and they kind of tried to get going on some things, but EA decided that they were done and canceled all of their projects and completely axed the company, only a few years after purchasing them. I mean, if that doesn't make you upset, I don't know what will. It's really frustrating the way the EA has handled a lot of companies, as you're going to see with several other prominent companies on this list. Number 4, Irrational Games. The BioShock series are some of my absolute favorite games, and implementing like moral dilemmas and thought-provoking philosophies into their games, they really stood out as a company, and they were dedicated to bringing some real intriguing and captivating work to AAA games. They sold well and were highly reviewed, but one day, just one day, out of nowhere, Ken Levine decided that he was done. He was done. He didn't want to do this anymore. He was done making AAA games. He was done making the massive games that would take, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years to finally, you know, see them through to the end. And I get it. I mean, that takes a toll. But shoot, man. I mean, it wasn't just him. The whole company closed. So BioShock's going to continue, and a lot of the employees found a place somewhere else. I mean, these games were good enough to where employees that worked on those games, they got good resume pieces. They're going to be okay. But the fact that he had to close down the entire company, I kind of take issue with that a little bit. But, you know, he did what he thought was best. He started his own company. Maybe he didn't want conflicting interests. I don't know. But his new studio is a lot smaller, and it seems like he just wants to make smaller games. He doesn't want to do the AAA thing anymore, and I don't blame him, because there's some crazy inefficiencies at the AAA level, especially when you have big publishing companies. Clearly, he just didn't want any part of that anymore. The BioShock series will continue, but without some of the lead developers, I mean, who knows at what quality to really expect the next few BioShock games. Number 3, Westwood. Westwood, man, Command & Conquer, Red Alert, straight up my childhood. I mean, from like 4th grade to 6th grade, I played Red Alert and Command & Conquer just every day after school, every single day. And guess what company bought Westwood? Did you say EA? You're right, it was EA. And guess what company axed Westwood only 5 years after buying them? But here's the issue. EA didn't just buy Westwood and then kind of ride on their licenses and then, you know, take whatever they had and just dissolve the company. No, they tried to get Westwood to do way more than Westwood was capable of doing. EA imposed strict deadlines on Westwood, and the company's image was significantly damaged as a result of rushed development. Westwood was supposed to be a solid investment. I mean, they had a massive share of the PC gaming market. But somehow EA has a propensity for taking something really good and making it not as good in a very short period of time. Like, no time flat. Just a couple years, and it's like, boom, we tanked your company. Number 2, Lionhead Studios. So, some people I know aren't huge, massive fans of Fable or Fable 2 or those games, but those people aren't the people that run this channel. We are all really big Fable fans, and specifically Fable 2. That is one of the most fun experiences that I've ever had playing a video game. A lot of games weren't really doing things like that at that point in time, and I mean, Fable, those games were just massive leaps in innovation for all video games. I mean, you may not like what they did specifically, but the things that were implemented in those games are things that are kind of across the board implemented in all games now today. Peter Molyneux. You guys just laughed, didn't you? I know someone out there just laughed. Just because I said his name. I didn't even say anything about him. I just said his name. Okay, I get it. I know that he had a tendency to oversell himself and his product, right? It's easy to make fun of him after the games that came out weren't exactly what he promised. I mean, they clearly were underachieving what he was kind of pushing for. That kind of affected a lot of people's enjoyment of the game overall. But he had set his sights so high that even a missed mark for what he was gunning for still resulted in some pretty solid video games. Fable brought to video games some super intriguing options, such as the ability to shape your own path, decide to be good or bad, have some relatively customized options with which to respond to the common folk. Fable 2 is one of my favorite games ever. Now, due to what has been described by employees as a string of bad decisions and mismanagement, whatever that means, the studio closed down in 2016. This is the most recent one that we've got on the list. Not EA this time, but it was actually Microsoft that finally shut them down. They had purchased them some years back, and this is just kind of the way that things went for them. It is absolutely unfortunate, but apparently there's still a new Fable game coming out, so I'm looking forward to that. Number 1 on this entire list, you guys know it's coming. You know it's coming. You know what I'm going to say. Factor 5. You probably didn't actually know that unless you watched one of our podcasts from like a year and a half ago. Factor 5 it's one of those companies kind of like Westwood that almost completely defined my childhood from a specific, set of years. I'd say middle school was when I played Rogue Squadron over and over and over. The company was founded in 1987 and saw success very early on. I know they made Turrican, and that's cool and all, but I'm here to talk about Rogue Squadron. That game was one of my all-time favorites. It did well, utilizing the extra RAM that Nintendo gave customers the option of expanding. I spent hundreds of hours playing that game in my teenage years. It was insanely fun. Now imagine my surprise when I was researching this video that I found an unreleased game called Rogue Squadron Rogue Leaders that was going to be for the Wii, and it was being developed in 2008. It was going to be a compilation of all the Rogue Squadron games that had ever been released. The game just never came out, but here's the worst part. It was done. It was completely finished. It was set. It just needed to be published and distributed and all of that. But they never quite got to that point. It turns out that when their publisher, Brash Entertainment, closed, they were kind of just left in no man's land. They couldn't pay their employees anymore, and several of them ended up suing the company for lost wages. I mean, it was over by May of 2009. Now I gotta bring one caveat here because the title of this video is Game Developers Who Were Shut Down, Who We Want Back. Well, I've got news for you, other fellow Factor 5 people who enjoy their company and their games. According to Julian Egbrecht, they have legally reobtained the rights to Turrican, and Factor 5 is reborn, as it were, like the phoenix rising out of the ashes. Factor 5 is apparently going to make a comeback. Now, they're saying they're back. That's what their co-founder said. But they haven't actually done anything yet, so we will just have to wait and see. And if it seems like they got the rights to Turrican, and if that's all they do, then that's cool. But man, if they can make another Rogue Squadron game, I mean, that would be tops. That would be the coolest thing in the world for me. There you have it, the top 5 video game companies that were shut down that we really want to see make a comeback. So I have a few honorable mentions that I kind of need to bring up here. We got Sierra Online, of course. We've got Clover Studio, because they made Okami, which was incredible, and Hideki Kamiya is like phenomenal. And then Maxis Emeryville that made SimCity and The Sims. So those are my honorable mentions for this video. There's a ton more, okay? So what do you guys think? Leave me a comment down below with your thoughts on which top 5 video game companies that have been shut down that you want to see make a comeback. You guys are beasts. Peace.